We are still in Project 5. This is Stage 4, Fine-Tuning Text. We still have a few typographic issues in the brochure, and we're going to address those so the layout looks very professional and well polished, better than just good enough. Some problems are going to need manual intervention, but some can be solved using Illustrator's built-in utilities. When we import text from an external file, it's possible that we are importing some typographic errors. Some are typing errors and some are errors of typography. From a typography standpoint, some problems like straight quotes have to do with the way text is encoded with that file that you brought in. Other issues like double spaces were put in intentionally, but they're not correct. Those were created by the author, but from a graphic standpoint, those aren't correct. Illustrator has a utility to find and fix those common issues. What we want to do first of all is go to Type and turn off your hidden characters. And then change to your selection tool, deselect everything, and we want to go back to our inside folder. We are going to next go to Type and select Smart Punctuation. Smart punctuation is going to correct the ligatures, like how two F's, L's, or FF and L's go together, and along with other things like double T's. It adjusts the spacing. It replaces the double F with an actual ligature, which is a special kind of character where those are joined. Smart quotes are going to give you the quotes that go in the correct direction. Smart spaces will delete the extra spaces after a period. Two dashes will be replaced with an end dash. Ellipses will get the proper spacing. We want to have everything selected except for expert fractions. There are no fractions here. We don't need to worry about them. And you're going to replace in the entire document and say OK to that. You get a few shifts going on. And I don't know if you noticed how this line changed right here. There were two ligatures that changed. There were 7 quotes that were changed. There was a space that changed, and we had one ellipse in here that was changed. And say okay to accept those changes. On my brochure, I don't have this next problem because I used a typeface that is spaced a little bit differently. I don't have a widow. A widow is a line of text that would be like 2 really short words or one single word left by itself. My spacing is working absolutely fine. This isn't going to change anything on mine. If you have a paragraph that only has one word or 2 short words at the end, like if this one ended with to life or this was just programs, that is called a widow. And we do not like those, graphically speaking. Those need to be corrected. And we usually change that by changing hyphenation or changing the spacing of the way the words run together. We have control over that kind of stuff. I'll show you how to fix this in case you have that, which I don't. We're going to select by inserting this into this paragraph, and we're going to select to hyphenate. Now that did not shift anything. I'm going to show you the dialog box for hyphenation, and we can set different parameters for our text. Remember, we turned off hyphenate to begin with, but we would turn that back on to try to get the words to shuffle a little bit. Again, I don't have that issue going on, and put on preview to see if it changes. Now, I could take my hyphenation down, or I could change my hyphenation zone. I can bring this all the way down for better spacing. Mine's spaced too good, and it's just the way that the text came out. So I'm going to just say okay to that, but those are the items you would adjust to make a correction. If you make a correction and your Studio Tours pops to the bottom of the first column, you're just going to have to make an adjustment to the size of your text frame and pop that back over again. Because remember, it flows very easily. All we have to do is make a slight adjustment, and it's going to just pop where it needs to go. We want to go now back to the outside of the folder, and we're going to put an insertion point in that first paragraph. Using the paragraph panel, apply the Justify All Lines alignment option, and then open up, oops, and then open up the justification options. Activate preview, and we're going to change the minimum word spacing to 70%. I'm going to tab so you can see the change. You can control the minimum, the desired, and maximum spacing that can be applied to create that justified type alignment. By reducing the minimum word spacing value, the spaces between words in the second line were reduced. A single word on a line might appear to be too stretched out. So you can use single word justification to center or left align a single word instead of leaving them fully justified. The spaces between the words in the second line are reduced, and we're telling Illustrator reduce that word spacing down to 70% of the normal spacing that we would get if we were pressing the space bar. And then we can say OK to accept that change. On the inside of the brochure, let's go to the inside fold-in. We have some items that should be tabbed. Select any part of the list paragraph here. In here. Each one of these is a paragraph, so we need to select all of these. And now open up your tabs panel. You're going to go to Window, Type, and select Tabs. You can't see that. It's off the bottom of my record screen, but it's at the bottom of the Type drop-down. This should pop up and align to the text frames. If for some reason it goes off to the side, you're going to have to click the Position panel above Text Magnet. That should pop it into place. You do have to make sure that you have enough room above your text frames that the Tabs panel can pop in there. We're going to click the right justified tab marker at the top of the panel to select it. This defines the type of tab stop, works just like tabs in Word. And then click the ruler above the left frame to place the tab stop and drag it to the middle somewhere. And you'll see how the text pops into place. Click the existing tab stop and drag to the right until it pops in. And you have to do it kind of slow, or it might go off the edge. That's too far. I got to drag it back just a smidge. Come on. There. Remember, the two frames are a slightly different size because of the size difference of the artboard. So you have to watch that line in the right frame to make sure that that tab aligns properly. Otherwise, it'll do like it did over for me, where it popped on to the next line below. With the tab stop still selected, type a period space in the leader field and hit enter up there, and that's going to put in the dotted line. Select any part of all but the last list item. So actually we're going to click and drag all of these except for the very last one, and we're going to, you may have to close your tabs panel to get to it. Pick up your paragraph panel and change the after spacing down to 3 points. That's going to snug everything up, but still leave the 10 points below Sunset District. And then save your file. Typos and misspellings show up in almost everything. And it doesn't matter how many people proofread, these errors will ruin a perfect job. You probably won't create the text for most of your design jobs. You aren't technically responsible for anything that your client supplies you that has misspellings, but you will look a whole lot better if you go in and fix those errors before that job goes to press. If you don't, you're going to hear about it, and it's going to be too late to get it fixed because it's already been printed, and then it's going to be one of those things where your client isn't going to want to use you again. So always good to check. Again, we're going to Make sure nothing is selected, and we're going to go to Edit, Check Spelling. And this will check everything in the document. Go to Start, and here is a typo. And so in this section, we are going to change this to read Explore and delete the extra space and put in change. We show height misspelled, but that is correct. So we're going to select Ignore. The next flag word is the web page, and so we're going to accept that and ignore it. Artistic. Ignore. Sutter Street, we want to ignore that. Ignore. Larkin, ignore, ignore, ignore. Just go through and check all of the mistakes and make sure that everything looks okay. And then you can say done. The only other spelling error should have been the word artistic. It's another good time to save. The next thing we're going to do, everything is done and it's ready to go to press. We've proofread, we've checked everything over. This would be ready to package to give to your printer. So we're going to go up to File and select Package. This is for those of you who have already taken InDesign. This is going to be very similar to packaging a product to go to press from InDesign, but it's not quite the same thing. It's a little bit different. What we're going to do is still copy the links and relink the links in the document, copy the fonts, and create a report. It's very similar. We're going to change the folder name to Finished Culture Letterfold. Make sure that all the options are checked and package. You're going to get a warning about copywriting font software, and that's fine. Go for it. Say okay. That's a standard warning. That's always going to let you know that you're possibly violating a font copyright. And it's going to go to black screen most likely while you're saving this. When this dialog box comes up, select Show Package, and that is going to show you there is the finished letterfold package, and your fonts are going to be included. Your links are going to be in here. There's your fonts. There's the links to the files we placed. There is the artwork, and we're going to have an item in Notepad that's going to give us all the information about the fonts, any links that aren't there or anything like that, but it's pulling everything together for us. This would then be the folder that we would pass off to a printing company. At this point, if we all had really great internet and stuff like that, I would say take your finished sculpture letterfold folder, and I would say zip it and send the whole folder to me. The problem is that when I did that, I zipped the thing and checked, and it is still a 42 meg file. That is still way too big. I do not want everybody, please do not send me that finished letterhead folder that is 42 megs. I will be here forever trying to download that for grading. Please don't do that. Instead, I want you to know how that is going to be saved, and I'm going to have you save this again as a PDF file